No matter how good a builder you are, you can always do better. And if you don't do better on your own initiative, building codes across the country will make sure you do, or make sure you're pushed out of business. I'm Robert Cossey, publisher of Canadian Contractor, and we want you to get ahead of those regulatory requirements and your competition. So we partnered with Nudura to get you started on your own march to net zero. Please enjoy the video. Afterwards, I'll let you know more about how you can get the hands-on training you and your staff need. Now, let's listen to Gary Mine, who's the architectural technologist for Nudura. We want to talk about the building codes today and what they're going to look like in 10 to 12 years. Gary, tell me what you know about what you're hearing from contractors regarding that pressure from the building code to make houses more energy efficient.
That's exactly it, Rob. The building code is pressuring our contractors and our users so that we're drawing less on the system and potentially producing more energy with our house than we're using.
Well, now you're referring to net zero building, right?
Yeah, that's the way it looks like we're going to be in 10, 15 years from now.
And how does that net zero building work? What's the concept behind the idea of net zero?
The idea with a net zero home is the building itself will produce as much energy through solar, geothermal, than it draws and takes to run your home in that day or year.
So not only does it mean that you've got an efficient home and the exterior envelope is efficient, but it also means that you've got some sort of mechanical system or some passive system to generate its own energy. Is that fair?
Yeah, you'll want to have an energy efficient build, but on top of that, there's all sorts of things: solar panels, rainwater collection, low flow plumbing, things like that. So it's more than just the shell of your house, it's a whole system.
Right, right. Now, there are a lot of different ways that contractors can head in that direction. I mean, I've heard of a passive house, I've heard of net zero house. There are others, the LEED rating for homes in order to drive, again, energy efficiency. I mean, which do you think is in ascendancy now in Canada, and which do you think will ultimately drive all of our building?
I think right now in Canada we're going to see buildings more focused net zero. Passive house is a way of thinking more for the European market, and LEED is a certifying. So you could have your net zero house certified, LEED if you want, but right now I think we're going to see more popularity with the net zero.
Okay. Now, I also understand that currently we have kind of two streams in the building code, in that you can build prescriptively according to the ABCs and the tab A, slot B kind of mentality in the building code, or you can do it, what's the other one called?
Performance.
Performance-based, right. Tell me about the difference between the two.
So if you have, traditionally your house is built to a prescriptive design. So the building code, whether it's Ontario, Saskatchewan, BC, will give you a guideline. Say this house needs to have walls this thick, roof insulated to a certain level. Now, if you have another product or another way of building that you trust, you can choose to go with the performance, which involves having an engineer work with you and then have real live testing done via blower door and thermal studies on that house.
So what are the pros and cons of each method? It sounds like the prescriptive method is kind of safe in that you're basically doing exactly what the building code is telling you to do, and so you should be okay. And then the performance-based method is a little bit wide open in the sense that you don't necessarily know whether or not what you're doing is going to pass. How does that all work?
The performance-based I would go for if you were using an innovative product that's not in the building code. So if you had, say, those straw bale designed houses with the large thermal mass, they would go performance because they're not mainstream enough yet for the building code to have picked them up and put them in their prescriptive.
Now we're going to eventually get to, in sessions 2 to 4, we're going to talk about building a house with ICF. But we also want to talk about how ICF solves a lot of problems that contractors have with regards to this pressure to make sure their houses are energy efficient. How are some, what are other ways that you can build to get to that point?
Well, the options right now are, if you're going to stick with traditional wood frame, is you're going to be laminating on additional layers of insulation to the outside of the building.
Right.
If you're building with block, you're now going to be putting on 2, 3, 4 inches of additional foam, EPS, XPS, any sort of rigid foam to the outside of your build. So those are ways to bring up your R value to meet the new codes.
Right now we're looking at the federal government thinking about 2030 being the time at which every house, every renovation that's being done in Canada will be net zero. What do you think is necessary between now and 2030 to get contractors ready for that time?
I think we'll need to make systems available for the contractors and also educate them on ways to get there. If that's the way the building code is going to go, we don't know 100%, but the main thing is we need to teach contractors how to build these homes so that they don't take that block wall and just put 10 inches of insulation on the outside.
Right, they really, without really knowing exactly what it is they're doing or what they want to achieve.
Yes.
I can imagine you think, okay, we'll add insulation. That doesn't really work that way, does it?
No, there's a lot of drawbacks with attaching your finishes if you're just piling on insulation, and you can have sealing for rain issues. So it's better if we can educate them on the proper way to get to these higher R value requirements.
Now let me ask you, what is Nudura doing to help educate contractors in this direction?
Yeah, so Nudura runs training courses, and we offer them North America wide to all of our first-time installers.
Okay.
We offer them to architects, to building officials. We encourage people to come to our training and attend our training classes before starting a project.
Okay.
It's actually part of our agreements with our distributors that they all have technical representatives and can train you how to build.
Okay. It seems to me, though, that you really do have to go beyond the envelope to consider the mechanicals in getting to that net zero level. When you're talking to contractors that are using ICFs, generally speaking, how do they supplement the energy service of the home?
Contractors will bring in additional energy, typically via solar. And we're seeing more popularity with geothermal, so harnessing the warmth and the cool from the ground and bringing that in to supplement your cooling system, so you're drawing less air.
Okay, so you've got geothermal, you've got solar, and I guess there's wind power possibly in remote areas where
if you're in a location, you could have wind power.
Yeah,
I mean, that's very dependent on your geography.
But the reality is, it all starts with the building envelope.
Yeah, if you don't have a building envelope that is going to keep the cold air out and keep your conditioned air in, you're fighting a losing battle.
Now, beyond this series, Nudura offers excellent training in energy-efficient building, specifically using insulated concrete forms, or ICFs. Go to the website on the screen below. You'll find installation manuals, drawings, project files, and other videos and photos of excellent high-efficiency buildings. You'll also be able to indicate your interest in the training they offer for you and your staff. See you next time.